Hey everyone, welcome to SmackDown, and this is gonna be a weird one. This is gonna be not about Fox, but about four people associated with Fox. Matt Groening, Seth MacFarlane, Mike Judge, and Lauren Bochert, and pretty much anything they created, in Fox or outside Fox.
Wait, is it Graining? I thought it was Groaning.
No, it's Groening.
Then why do people say Groaning?
I don't know how that works, but... yeah, apparently it's pronounced Groening. Alright. You like screen sharing?
How's the screen share?
Not good as of right now, but...
It's loading.
It's loading.
Well, we'll know once it starts, fully loaded, the picture shows.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to, share and restart,
So, let's just, while you fix that, let's just start. What was the first picture gonna be again?
I believe it would be of... Oh, it's working, it's working. It's working. We're good.
Oh, we got the thumbnail. Okay.
Oh my fuck.
Alright, let's start. Matt Groening. He is basically the legend of Fox, and basically adult animation as a whole because of one show, The Simpsons.
I mean, he also did Futurama, but...
That's later.
Yeah, that's later.
That's kind of something.
Alright, Eli, would you do the honors and show the first picture?
Right. I mean, is the image shown right now? That I first had.
Yeah, it's up. It's up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up.
Okay, first
Do you have the image, Eli?
Isn't it showing?
Yeah,
It's
it's showing the thumbnail, but not the image for The Simpsons. There you go.
Here we go.
What? I just flipped it.
Oh,
Yeah, you're
it
good.
was lagging. It was lagging. We got Simpsons. Yeah.
Alright, we got Simpsons, yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay,
good,
so
good,
it was
good,
this
good.
show that really catapulted Fox as a whole into big, sort of famous territory. And I've actually seen a couple episodes of the show, but here's the thing. My nostalgic experience with The Simpsons is with the movie, which we'll actually talk about right after this. Maybe. Excuse me.
Yep.
Yeah, like everyone considers the pre-movie era of The Simpsons to be the golden age, to the point where they live in such harsh states of denial that they believe any Simpsons after the movie ain't The Simpsons.
Yep. Or more specifically after 1999, or season 10, really.
Well, the movie came out in 2007.
Yeah, the movie came out in 2007, but the movie isn't really...
Yep.
Yeah, the movie was considered long after the decline in quality, but not in my opinion. So, Eli, would you like to say something?
Yep. Yeah. Give me just a sec.
Yes.
I've got a question. What was the general consensus of Simpson losing quality for season?
Alright, so this is what we're talking about. Yeah, most people considered the golden age of The Simpsons to be season 3-ish to about season 8, season 9. And season 10 is considered pretty good, while the show in general just kind of slowly declined after
You guys
that.
are done in a week.
Alright. Eli, or... I thought you had
my
something...
turn?
Yeah, your turn. Go ahead, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, I just had to quick. Again, viewers, just a heads up, I'm target right now, so. All right,
yeah,
so.
Moral sounds of children screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were saying this before we started streaming. It never fails. You always hear screaming, screaming and targets.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, all right. So, what I first have to say about The Simpsons. Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love The Simpsons. I am a fan of Matt Groening, and especially, I know we're going to talk about some more when we come up to that, huge fan of Futurama ratings. Simpsons probably be number 2 for me, but excuse you. I've been watching a lot of The Simpsons actually lately. Even like perfect timing since we were going to do the SmackDown. I've been thanks to Disney Plus. I've been watching a lot of The Simpsons, and it's just Simpsons. It's because it's still going on. It's kind of funny. The first episode of The Simpsons ever, it aired in 1989, literally right before the 1980s decade came to an end. And that was the only episode in Simpsons being in the 80s. And then, of course, Simpsons continuing in the 1990s. And believe it or not, when I started watching The Simpsons on Disney Plus, I watched the first episode of The Simpsons, and because why not? Simpsons, this one thing we have to mention, it's like Simpsons predicting some things. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, The Simpsons has this very known sort of thing for quote-unquote predicting the future. Well, really it's just because it's a satirical show and it's been running for so long that there's so many situations that could be pretty much applied to anything. Much like how SpongeBob has a meme for everything, The Simpsons has a situation for everything.
To list some examples, they predicted the date of Michael Jackson's death. They predicted Trump being the president. They predicted Lady Gaga's Super Bowl halftime show.
They
even
predicted
Fox being owned by Disney.
I was about to say, they predicted.
So you could say Simpsons being sort of the Nostradamus show.
Yeah, it's really kind of like that. I mean, South Park has some sort of, satirical relevance similar to The Simpsons, but The Simpsons is really that sort of Nostradamus show that kind of predicts everything.
The difference between them is, The Simpsons get it so right, and they make fun of it, whereas the South Park would make fun of it by blowing it out of proportion.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with this... My favorite prediction from The Simpsons is that infamous cover of New York from the city of New York, which is Homer Simpson. Remember that cover that had $9 next to the Twin Towers? If you get the reference.
Yeah.
By the way, sorry for this kind of deal, but a little weird but kind of cool fun fact, I guess, if you can call it that. That Simpsons is Simpsons being first premiered in 1989. That seemed to be 20 years after Sesame Street first appeared. Kind of weird.
Wow.
Yeah, it is kind of weird though, but I believe that the Sesame Street aired on November of '69. It's kind of similar in that sense, but not really. Because let's talk about the first episode of The Simpsons, because the first episode of The Simpsons, especially Homer's voice, Homer's actually a bit more relaxed. He's actually a relatively decent father in the first season, which is actually pretty interesting. And even his voice too, he barely even sounds like the Homer we know now.
Yeah, they was trying to focus more on traditional family values. Hint. And actually, before The Simpsons became a standalone show, it was actually an animated segment of the Tracy Ullman Show.
Yeah, Tracy Ullman Show was one of the first shows Fox ever aired when they started being a network, and Matt Groening was one of the people that made skits for that show, and that skit was, of course, The Simpsons, or at least the pre-shorts. And I actually want to say this, Cartoon Lover 98, I keep talking about him on the show, but Cartoon Lover actually took his icon for one of those shorts, specifically the one with the zoo and the monkeys. I didn't know wild monkeys. What was that? That scene was Cartoon Lover 98's most famous icon. And that's really what I most remember the Tracy Ullman shorts for, in my mind.
Yeah. I'm not sure what episode this was, but the point that would change the tone of The Simpsons forever was when the people and the writing staff started to push the limits of what they could get away with on television. People cite this one clip where Bart's like in the back of the car, bastard, 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 bastard.
Yeah. Season 8 was where the show really sort of, changed. It had a lot of experimental episodes like Homer's Enemy, Homer's Phobia, or there was this other one that I can't remember. It was no, that was season 7. It was Home Sweet Home Diddly Dum Doodly. It was earlier than season 8, but it was those kinds of episodes that really got experimental with the show, and the show really became really a cartoon after that point. Really, it was just an animated sitcom that tried to, satirize the sort of causes show like sitcoms of the 80s. And succeeded pretty well at that.
Right.
And I want to say about one more thing about the early seasons of The Simpsons. Like, it's actually very weirdly animated. Like, it almost reminds me of, like, Schoolhouse Rock type animation. Or, really, the sort of, like, remember that clip on Twitter where she was, like, very fluid animation, where she was like, you're going to watch this tape. Like, it was one of the first episodes of Enchanted Evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very smooth animation of that character.
Yeah.
It's actually funny how, like, in the later seasons, Simpsons would later go back to parody Schoolhouse Rock with their similar animation style. I'm an amendment to be. I'm an amendment to be.
Yeah, and you could actually thank the Rugrats people for that, Classic Chupo, for that animation. But then again, the show got more and more, popular, and they had to, get a new studio to produce the show cheaper, so they had Phone Roman do it, and that's what they've been, going to for animation ever since, for the next, 27 years or some shit.
Yeah, like, the stuff that's, like, after the classic age, but still prior to the movie, I found good, but they weren't as good as the Golden Age, but they were still at the level where I did thoroughly enjoy them in my teenage years.
Yeah, like 2000 Simpsons, early 2000 Simpsons is actually still a pretty decent show. Like, not as good as the classics, obviously, but I have a few episodes that I really like. The most notable one being Homer, where Homer actually got the crayon lodge in his brain removed, and he actually becomes smart.
Yeah, he mathematically proved there was no God.
Yep.
And Flanders just burned it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell that they were starting to go for, like, lowbrow jokes, like, funny, but that's really my kind of humor, so, yeah, I guess 2000 Simpsons is my favorite era.
Yeah, like, being someone that, I think the screen changed.
Sorry. Sec.
Anyways, being someone that was a 90s, 2000s era child, I think The Simpsons, at least in my perspective, peaked at the movie.
Yeah, I actually tend to think that too, because most of my nostalgia for The Simpsons actually comes from the movie. And we should talk about that right now.
Yeah, because the movie was the end of The Simpsons. Like, it was a good run, but it had to come somewhere. It was nice for them to come out on top with all their integrity and dignity, and God damn it, it's still on!
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I actually first knew what The Simpsons was because of the movie. Like, I clearly remember when it was first about to come out back in very early 2007. Like, when I think we were about to go see Ratatouille on Cars. There was actually a giant model of...
There's no screen share.
There's no screen share.
There's no screen share.
What? Wait a minute, I don't think I pressed the button.
Anyways.
Thought I did. Okay, now how is it?
Okay, we're back on. Yes.
Yeah. Just a heads up, I like to you guys and to the viewers, like, well,
Okay. All right, let's
you know,
talk.
for what's going on, and
Yeah, and we didn't really hear much of that. I guess it is your signal.
Yeah.
I said,
We're listening.
We're listening.
oh, okay, you can hear me.
Yeah, we can
I
hear
was
you.
just saying that. Okay, what I was saying was, because you didn't pick it up, you didn't get it the first time. You know, I just wanted to apologize to both you guys and to the viewers, because there's, for me, and because I'm here at Target, there has been, and I'm pretty sure there's still going to be a few, interruptions and bumps and for me, while I'm screen sharing, blah blah blah, and if you can hear anything else on my end, in the background.
Yeah, yeah. General rule of thumb is when you're not speaking, mute yourself.
Yeah, and
I can't mute myself because I'm screen sharing.
You can mute your mic somewhere.
yeah.
I hope so. Wait a minute, I can't. Is this it? Like it says mic mode standard.
No, I don't think that's. Is it?
Yeah, go to the Discord app. Go to the Discord app. You should see it.
I can't. Like I can't.
All right.
Sharing. I can't do anything else.
All right.
Let's keep going.
All right, we're gonna. All right, Eli's gonna speak. Okay, so
Well,
we can hear
Yeah.
Eli speak. I meant.
okay, but I was gonna say something about this because when did the good old days of The Simpsons really came to an end? Like it was 2000s, right?
It's debatable.
Yeah, it's debatable. Like, most people say season 10, which was around the late 90s, very early 2000s. But I honestly like early 2000s Simpsons, from what I've seen of it.
Yeah.
But really,
Like for
The Simpsons...
nostalgia,
Yeah, for nostalgic purposes, mainly because of the movie. Like, most of my nostalgia from The Simpsons, pretty much all of it comes from the movie.
yeah, and I remember in one of Nostalgia Critic's videos, him mentioning something, like Simpsons after season 6,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the earliest.
Yeah, we don't know the date of the start of its quality decline because you can ask a million people and get a million different answers. But the objective point of no return for its quality, as far as most people are concerned, is anything after the movie.
Yeah, basically.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, I feel like the movie was. I was just going to say, I feel as though that the movie was pretty good. So maybe the movie was one of the last few things, of the good old days of Simpsons.
Yeah, that's because they pretty much got all of the old staff that they could, that loved the show, and pretty much everyone that they could and gave it their all. Alright, back to my story.
Right.
Back to my story. Okay, so I was either going to see Cars or Ratatouille. It was one of the first movies I ever saw in theaters, and I saw this weird couch with yellow people. And I thought, this is weird, and I read The Simpsons movie, 2007. I was like, this is bizarre. And I never really thought much of it after that, until my family, a year later, got The Simpsons movie on DVD. And, oh my god, when I saw it for the first time, I had never seen anything like this before. Oh shit. Like, you had, all sorts of these brilliant jokes, flying at you, every 5 seconds. I'm like, I was used to comedy, but not at this level. And I was like, oh god, this is just such an enjoyable experience. I knew the dumbass dad, I knew the sort of, woman who's to go from, the bad kid, the sort of, sister. But I never really thought of where it came from until now. And I was like, this is fascinating. I especially like the plot where it's this sort of environmental allegory, where, not really an allegory, but an environmental message, where, the whole city is under a dome, and oh shit, they predict a corona, basically.
They predicted corona and under the dome.
Yeah, basically.
I was going to mention that too, if they predicted virus.
Yeah, and I was especially enamored by the amount of jokes, the amount of clever jokes that they had. Every day, even, during, regularly, we would talk about for hours about the jokes in this movie. Or rather, one of my favorites was at the beginning where it was like this sort of like news scrolling at the very start. That was one of my favorite jokes. And there was also Spider Pig.
Spider Pig, does whatever a Spider Pig does.
I'm trying to come up with jokes that I can come up with, but there's just so many that I can't really, I can't really pinpoint. There's this one scene with like the church. There was like, "We told you so," and I thought that was funny.
Yeah. There's this one that still makes memes today, as far as I know. It's like when Bart was streaking and he landed on the window of the Krusty Burger, and Ned was sitting with his kids. Let's thank the Lord for his bountiful penis. Bountiful penis.
Yeah. And I was oh jeez. Yeah, and I remember, and also to remember when Bart actually, showed his junk, and it was like, oh god.
Shouldn't we?
Yeah, only in the American version.
Only in the U.S. version.
Shouldn't we
Go ahead, Eli.
I was just gonna ask. Shouldn't we wait and talk more about this when we get to the Simpsons movie?
All right, we're on the Simpsons movie. We didn't change that picture.
Yeah, we're on Simpsons movie.
Anyway. You finished, or can I talk now?
Yeah,
I was
about to talk about that scene. I was about to talk about that scene with Bart showing his junk, but I pretty much said everything about it. But overall, my point is, I had never seen that sort of level of comedy before, and for a long time, it was, one of my favorite movies. Whenever it was movie night, I would always pick this movie, because I remembered the conversations we had about this movie's jokes, and it was just so enthralling to really talk about a movie like that. It really taught me how impactful a movie can be, how corny that sounds. This is like the fucking sense of it. I can't believe I'm saying this about this.
Right.
It's not the best movie in the world, but it holds a special place in my heart. That's the point I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. When I grew up with The Simpsons, I saw a trailer for a movie. I didn't remember anything of it. I just knew it said it gave me a date, July 27th, 2007, and that's all I remembered, is that there would be a Simpsons movie. And I knew I liked The Simpsons, so I was hyped. And then when the movie finally came out, it was the first movie I actually asked my parents to take me to, instead of them just dragging me to movies. So that was a pleasant experience, and it had everything I love being a fan of The Simpsons beforehand. So I like that. So my favorite joke, there was this one at the beginning where pretty much Homer calls out the idea of going to a movie and paying money to see something you get on TV for free. It was like my first experience with a fourth wall breakdown. Everyone in the theater is a giant sucker, especially you. That was pretty funny. And let's see. And another joke I remember being kind of the one from the trailer, where there was talking to the EPA agent. If you kill Homer, we'll never know where the treasure's buried. What treasure? The treasure of I'm a wiener. I'm a wiener. Classic.
Yeah.
It's really good in the film.
Yep. And of course, you have to recognize the reference of I'm a wiener, which we'll get to later.
Yeah. But I think what I think is kind of funny today, given that The Simpsons are owned by Disney, still funny today, is the scene where they're on the getaway bus or getaway train or whatever, and Bart's just rummaging through the luggage, puts on a black bra to kind of resemble ears, and he's like, "I'm the mascot of an evil corporation."
Oh god, I remember that, and I was like, when Disney bought Fox, people were sharing that clip everywhere, and I was like, oh my god, I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, and before anybody asks, no, the Simpsons game and the Simpsons movie are two different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Why don't we talk about the Simpsons games anyway? Let's talk about the Simpsons video games.
There are many of them, and some of them are parodies of other things.
Yes, and I feel like Eli has more to say about those than I do.
About what?
The Simpsons video games, including the Simpsons games, Simpsons Hit and Run, Road Rage, etc.
I've never played any of those.
Well then, I don't.
I'll at least have a few things to say.
All right, I think we should let GH talk about the Simpsons games first.
All right.
First, GH.
Okay. I'm gonna start with the games that I grew up playing because those are the only ones I really know. When it came to like the PlayStation 2 era, also known as the 128-bit era of games, the property was owned by EA, because of course it is. Let's see. At the time, they just liked making fun of video game culture, so they decided to make games that pretty much copy other games, sort of. The Simpsons skateboarding is basically Tony Hawk, and The Simpsons Road Rage is basically Crazy Taxi, and The Simpsons Hit and Run is basically Grand Theft Auto. But for being clones, they're pretty damn good clones. Like playing Simpsons skateboarding what got me interested in Tony Hawk's in the first place. What else? Simpsons Road Rage. People thought they were going to get in trouble for copying Crazy Taxi, but they actually did not get in trouble for copying Crazy Taxi. But they did get in trouble for copying one single stupid thing about Crazy Taxi. Like, Crazy Taxi has an arrow that pops up and points you in the direction you're supposed to go. The Simpsons Road Rage pretty much mocked that by having a yellow Simpson finger pointing where you're supposed to go. Sega filed trademark violation. So no, patent violation. That's what it was. It was a patent violation. Sega filed a patent on the idea of an arrow that appears on the screen and points where you go. Like, why the fuck would they do that? Anyway, Simpsons Hit and Run is the one that has the really radical community support behind it even today. There's still like speed runs and mods and out of bounds glitches galore. And like there's so many mods of it, even changing the IP entirely. Like the amount of mods I've seen that change it to like SpongeBob or steamed hams. It's like amazing. It played in that Grand Theft Auto like structure where you drive around Springfield and do missions. Here's a funny story. Like one of the first things you can do in the game is talk to Marge, but the development team decided to have Homer beat the crap out of her because that's funny, right? So they had to make a rule. Like if Matt Groening showed up in the building, no one's allowed to beat the crap out of Marge in front of him. So Matt Groening showed up to test the game, and you know what the first thing he did was? He beat the crap out of Marge. Anyway, so I already ran through the pattern. Skateboarding copies Tony Hawk. Road Rage copies Crazy Taxi. Hit and Run copies Grand Theft Auto. The next game for the next console generation, The Simpsons game, also done by EA. This game copies literally everything else. It's a game about the Simpsons realizing they have video game powers, and a lot of the elements of the game and a lot of the references in the game pretty much are nods to other games. Like you fight aliens and they're like Space Invaders. The final boss is like DDR. There are levels that are parodies of Grand Theft Auto and EverQuest and Pokemon for some reason. But yeah, even though they got the exclusive rights to make the games, I will always appreciate that the staff and the people behind the games have such a good sense of humor that they're not afraid to make fun of EA. Like they'll make fun of EA, and they're not ashamed of it, and they love it. And that was honestly the last good game ever made, because after that, EA, still holding that death grip on the Simpsons property, decided to make Tapped Out, and that's a fucking cash cow on the tablets. But let's see, what else is on the picture here? Those games. Go ahead.
Very best. Like while I was muted, I had to find a good picture, like if possibly like a good picture of the Simpsons video games. And well, I mean, this is the best I can find, and if this one works.
Yeah, it works. It helps me keep track of where I was. Okay, yeah. So I did 4 of the games, and those are the games I grew up with. I guess I can dip a little bit back to a couple that I played a little bit of. The Simpsons arcade game. That is a rare bird nowadays to find a working cabinet. They did make a version of it for the Xbox Live Arcade, which I did buy and still have on my Xbox today. But because of copyright issues, it was only on the marketplace for a short time before being delisted, and you can't carry it over to the one. The Simpsons arcade game it is infamous for having most of the cast. Not all of them, most of them. Apparently, one of the voice actors didn't sign on for the game, so they dubbed his voice. So they dubbed his characters with people that were in staff, most notably the voice of Burns.
Not him. Oh, he didn't voice Burns or any of the other characters for the game.
No.
That sucks.
Yeah. Anyway, the plot of the arcade game was like, Mr. Burns and company were robbing a diamond store. Meanwhile, they run into the Simpsons, and one of the diamonds ends up in Maggie's mouth. So they kidnap the baby, and now we have to save the baby. The game was actually made by Konami, the same people that made the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade games.
Huh.
And there's actually a Japanese and American version. The difference is that the Japanese version lets you hoard your health, so you can have a bunch of it if you wanted to, and even have nuclear bombs as items in the game. It's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
Much like the Ninja Turtles arcade games, you can play Homer, Marge, Bart, or Lisa and beat the crap out of bad guys. It's a beat 'em up. You know beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
What else is on this board? Bart versus the Space Mutants and Bartman and Radioactive Man. Those are NES games. I don't know much of them, and I don't care. The only one left on this picture is Simpsons Wrestling. When I was a kid, I never heard of this, but I was curious about it, and then I looked it up on one of them ROM sites because I was a really bad kid back then. I pirated video games because I could. But anyway, I played it and I remembered it sucked. It really sucked. Like, it didn't feel right, and I could never get past like one of the levels. I forgot which one. But apparently I wasn't the only one, because later on in my adult years, I did find reviews of the game, and apparently it wasn't just my experience. It just sucked.
Ooh.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so if that's it about the Simpsons games, I think we have one more Simpsons thing to discuss, which is the shorts.
Well, if I could quickly say something about the games.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few things to say about the games. Like, yes. First off, I want to mention this. Even Nostalgia Correct did a video about this. Remember Bart?
Yeah, I know.
Bart's Nightmare. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know who Bart is, but I don't really know what you're talking about.
He said Bart's Nightmare, I think, because he said Nostalgia Critic.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
It was a video game on Super Nintendo, I think, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. But, Nostalgia Critic's video of Bart's Nightmare, because everybody, there was a time when everybody just hated that video, and Nostalgia Critic, I guess, was trying to do a but I guess people as of now seem to appreciate his video of Bart's Nightmare, but it's like the next Bart's Nightmare is Nostalgia Critic's, review, I should say, of The Wall.
Yeah, I mean, they don't mind too much with Doug playing video games in general. Hell, you can find a Channel Awesome Twitch page. They do live streams.
Yeah, I've seen like a compilation, like it's a montage of Doug playing Kingdom Hearts, and one of my favorite, and especially the one I watched, like, is when he's struggling to climb up a tree because he's in Kingdom Hearts, he's in the Winnie the Pooh section.
Right. Like, one thing I forgot to mention about Crazy Taxi, I mean Simpsons Road Rage, like, even though it's a clone of Crazy Taxi, I find it to be superior to Crazy Taxi purely for the driving controls. Because, like, Crazy Taxi, you had to accelerate and brake with, like, the trigger buttons, which I guess emulated the arcade at the time with the pedals. But to me, I could never get used to it. With Road Rage, you had your typical console driving controls. You know, the A button to accelerate, and B is your brake and reverse. You steer with the analog stick. Typical fare. That's why I never understood, like, how... I guess that's why I never really understood, because, like, the clone was just so much better. Right.
You also give me a second.
Let's see.
Okay, sorry. I just had to mute. I had to mute my mic because I'm in a drive-through right now.
Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper.
I'm in the line for Arby's.
Arby's, we have the meats.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Well, what I was about to say, one more thing about the games. Like, yeah, in the maybe hold on a sec, I'll pull up the picture again. As I'm doing it, like, in one of the pictures, okay, how's my screen share?
Good.
You're good.
Okay, so, like, the one at the very end, the Simpsons game, like, I don't know, like, there's only one thing I'll say about it. I like this, that how, well, one of the boss levels, like, I think it's the final boss level, the Simpsons, like, fight off against their creator, Matt Groening, you know what I'm talking about?
Well, that's not the final level, but it's one of them.
Okay, but yeah, they fight off against Matt Groening, but Matt Groening summons a couple of his characters, which are, in this game we have cameos of Bender and Zoidberg. Bender and Zoidberg are fighting Homer and Bart Simpson or any other character, any other Simpsons you're playing.
Yeah. Like, I'll admit, one of my favorite parts of that level was, like, when we first see Matt Groening, and he sends in the army of lawyers, and he's talking with the secretary. Send in the executive attorneys. Yes, Mr. Groening. It's Groening. Are you sure? No.
Yeah, and even like Bender and Zoidberg get lines, and I remember one line from Bender. It's right as they show up. Aw snap, yeah, because that's right before the fight begins. So
yeah.
So
go ahead.
All right. So I was just about to say, is that it on the Simpsons games?
Yeah. I think that's it on the Simpsons games. We can talk about one more Simpsons thing, which is the shorts, but really I would much rather move on to Matt Groening's other works.
Yeah, I know.
One in particular.
Anyway.
But should we, like, are we doing this in order, or are we just doing this randomly?
We are doing it in order, but here's the thing. The next thing on Matt Groening's filmography, After this is all of the other reindeer, which I don't think that counts that much, since you can't really feel Matt Groening's influence in that special, even though he's an executive producer. So I think we can just move on to Futurama.
Oh yes, here we go. All right, how's it looking?
Good.
Just one.
Good. All right, who's gonna start? Who's gonna start first?
You should, because you're the Futurama fan here, and all I've seen of Futurama really is a clip from the first scene where he first gets into that thing and he first enters the future from the pilot.
Yeah.
So go ahead and you do it. This is your thing. Of course, besides MPage if he has something to say, and of course, besides Digi if he has something to say.
I was literally about to say so basically I should be the one first and like you guys at last.
Yeah, you can go first.
Basically go ahead.
All right. Well, boy, where do I begin? Like, well, yes, as you said at the Sim, like I am a huge Futurama fan. As I said earlier, when we were talking about the Simpsons, Futurama being one of my favorite pieces of animation from Matt Groening, and Simpsons being number 2, Futurama, it's one of my favorites. Like its style of the future sci-fi is great, and the characters, I could go on, and and one of my favorite characters, of course, I have to mention, of course, one of my favorite characters, of course, is none other than Bender Rodriguez. Because that is his last name, Rodriguez, and 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 honestly, like I try my very best to do a Bender impression. We're back, baby. So anyway, so Bender, he's just a hilarious character, and he's a cool robot, and John DiMaggio voicing Bender, just he's brought so much to that character, and and to mention that I guess we're kind of gonna go back and forth on this. I'm talking about Futurama, it doesn't matter, but as you all probably know, like Futurama is coming back, and for its 11th season, but I really hope that it'll continue on and not just have it be only one season. And it was announced earlier this year. I think it was. I want to say. Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, it was announced earlier. Somewhere earlier in February. It might have been. It was probably somewhere right after my birthday, probably when this was announced. And it was announced that Futurama was coming back. Hulu ordered another season of Futurama with 20 episodes, and it said that multiple original cast members were returning, except for one, and that of course was John DiMaggio as none other than Bender. Which I mean, John DiMaggio explained why, and then this hashtag started this trend. Do you remember what that was? Does anybody remember what that was called?
Anybody? I don't remember.
Bender something, I forget.
Bender's Big Score.
No.
Bender.
Because again, it's at one point like it seemed that John DiMaggio was not coming back to voice Bender, and everybody started this hashtag, this trend.
Let me see if I can look that up. Like I see, like I remember main news outlets. Bender hashtag. Let's see. Bender hashtag actor. Bendergate.
Bendergate. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Hashtag Bendergate probably. Yeah. So thus began that, and everybody just I guess signing up attention or whatever it was to bring John DiMaggio back. And my side on this, they would have had the entire, because here's another thing. We're not getting the return of Futurama, until literally next year. We have to wait. We have to wait another year for Futurama's return. So they would have had the entire year to negotiate, both John DiMaggio and the people at Hulu. But just like that, things seem to escalate quickly, and things worked out very quickly. And John DiMaggio, of course, is back to the franchise and to voice Bender. And for me, I was a bit hesitant on this. Like I was like, no, there's no way. Why is this happening? No, because there's no way. Like, who else can they get to voice Bender? Because for me, when I say this, and in all honesty, John DiMaggio is the voice of Bender because of what he brought to that character. Just it just wouldn't be the same without. It would have never been the same if he didn't come back. But thankfully, he is coming back. So there's that. Okay. Speaking of which, because Futurama had been canceled twice, as we all know. Like the first time it got canceled was around. I remember now. It was around 2003 when it got canceled, and then when it came back, let me see. I'll go to the images. Yeah, when it came back, it had a batch of 4 TV movies: Bender's Big Score, the Beast with a Billion Backs, Bender's Game, and Into the Wild Green Yonder.
Yes.
And so those were around 2007, 8, 9, near the end of the 2000s. And I want to say, up to 2010, that's when Futurama officially came back. Comedy Central revived Futurama, and it would get canceled yet again in 2013. And I mean, it had a pretty good, decent final episode, and for both Fry and Leela, they got finally married and such, and and another thing is that some episode, to mention a couple of episodes, there was of course the space pilot, where Fry, he gets frozen and wakes up, is unfrozen, thousands of years in the future, right before before the new year. And a couple of episodes, I remember, this is one of my, I have a couple of favorites. Like they did a Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory parody. They did one that was an entire tribute, to Star Trek, with most of the original cast of the original series, with the exception of Scotty, James Doohan. And there was another one, the Titanic, that was pretty funny. And also trying to remember, there was even Zap Brannigan being stripped from being captain, and there was one where Bender would turn into a wear car. The episode was called Honking. That was pretty funny.
I'm a blind pedestrian. 20 points.
Yeah, which episode are you quoting? What is that from? Which episode has that?
The wear car.
Oh yeah, the wear car. Yeah, even when he turns into a car, he is howling, but he's also right at the end. He's going honk honk.
Honk honk.
Yes, there you go. And I think even in later episodes, another one, a couple of episodes where we would have Robot Devil being voiced by Homer Simpson himself, and Robot Hell, and there would also be Robot Santa. The first appearance of Robot Santa, John Goodman voiced him. And God, I wish I could remember this one line he says. If I can remember how it goes, I'm gonna call up your stocking. You'll be coughing up diamonds. I think that's how he says it. I'm trying to remember what else. At one point in one episode, then Fry becomes a billionaire, and another one is, gosh, can't forget about this one. It's one of the most emotional things in animation, in TV animation, I guess. Remember Jurassic Park?
Oh, the dog.
Yes. Who waited for Fry?
It reminds me of that one story I saw in Japan, because it kind of parallels that. Like
Yes,
like
it
there's like
does.
this dog statue in Japan. Basically, like the dog waits at the train station for his owner to come home. One day, the man dies, and then the dog's just still waiting there, and then eventually the dog dies, and they made a statue of it. So it's an interesting parallel.
Probably is. Yes, it is. And I was about to say, probably that's kind of inspired by that. Anyways, another one I'm trying to. Oh boy, what was it? Oh yeah, I remember another episode where they, yeah, like I guess yeah, the Planet Express crew like off against a space whale, because I guess according to Professor Farnsworth, the original like members of the Planet Express crew tried to fight off against the space whale, and only Zoidberg survived. And then there was one episode where Bender actually does die, and he's a ghost. Then there was another one where I can't. Oh yeah, I think they had one of the episodes. Like it was, they had like a bunch of segments in an episode. Like in a couple of episodes, and one of them there was a one story where Bender actually becomes human, and he gets
That's a what
he
if
gets really.
machine.
What's that now?
That's part of the What If Machine saga.
Okay, and he turns into human, and he gets so fat and he dies basically. And there was another one where
Even after he dies, he still says "Woo!"
that's because of I guess the air to his body. Yeah, when they move him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but another one is where they do a parody of The Wizard of Oz, and Leela's is Dorothy, and I think
the witch.
yeah, mom's the witch, yeah, and Fry's the Scarecrow, Bender's the Tin Man, makes perfect sense, and Zoidberg is supposedly the Cowardly Lion, although he's just Zoidberg, and Nibbler is like supposed to be Toto. Well, that's another thing. Like Nibbler became a pet to Leela, but later on, like Nibbler did have a voice, and Nibbler was voiced by legendary voice actor Frank Welker, and there's one episode that involves like Nibbler. Well, oh yeah, that's right. Nibbler, I believe, yeah, Nibbler was responsible for Fry, traveling, thousands of years into the future, falling into that container.
Yeah, because they needed him to fight the squadron of giant brains.
Yep. And even when we see, time going by and all the buildings are destroyed, like apparently that was Bender's doing, because it's established in Bender's big score. But one episode that it's another good one too. It was one of the last few episodes before it got canceled twice. One episode is where this ship is making this loud sound. It caused a couple of planets to be destroyed and almost causing Earth to be destroyed. And they kind of have to go into Fry's dream, because when he was about to fall into the container, he heard that same kind of sound, and I think it's Nibbler's brother, and basically like he was trying to find the like spaceship car Earth, and so there was that. And another one I remember. Oh yeah, here's another character we forgot to mention. Like that Nixon was like the president, during the show.
Yeah, because I was totally the worst person to bring back as a president. No one else. No weird orange skinned man with blonde hair. Nope. Nothing like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was even before then. But also another thing on Futurama. Just one more thing, because The Simpsons, after Futurama got canceled a second time in 2013, it wouldn't be too long until the next year when Futurama made that crossover with the Simpsons-rama, I guess that's how you say.
Simpsorama.
Simpson. Okay.
Yeah. It's basically a show that's out of ideas crossover another show that's out of episodes. Like they're pretty much hammering it in that Futurama's never coming back, and it's over, and it's done, and we can move on with our lives. And then Hulu fucked it up.
I wouldn't say so. No, personally, I'm down.
Yeah, the thing with Futurama is I feel like Matt in his heart of hearts wants Futurama to be like The Simpsons, where it just has endless amounts of episodes, like forever.
The difference though, from The Simpsons is like with The Simpsons, it can go on forever because it's literally a never-ending sequence of non sequitur based events. But Futurama, they've ended so many fucking times. And it's like enough already.
Twice.
Yeah, twice, because, like, I feel like Matt is compromising here, because in his heart of hearts he wants Futurama to basically go on forever, but he kind of has to settle for running it for a few years every once in a while, like, and then reviving it after a couple years, and then running it for more years, and then reviving after a couple years over and over again.
Yeah, like, I feel like he's about to fall into the trap that the classic cartoon Reboot fell into. The thing about Reboot, that famous CG animated show, the creators went into each season thinking that it would never be picked up at the end of that season. So every season has a satisfying conclusion that could bring about the end of the show. But then they get renewed for another season and they gotta keep going. And then they do that, and then they do it the same way, and then they get another season. So at this point they figure, okay, they're unstoppable. Let's push our luck. Let's have some seasons that end in cliffhangers. And like the last season of Reboot ended in a cliffhanger because they thought they were going to get picked up again. They did not.
Okay.
That pissed a lot of people off, and that's why I fear them bringing back Futurama right now would be a bad idea, because like if this new era of Futurama does not leave us with a satisfying conclusion, it's gonna piss a lot of people off because we don't know if they're gonna stay back.
Yeah. All right, and another thing on Futurama. One more thing, like, should we mention, like, we talked about this? We talked about one thing on The Simpsons, and we should do the same for Futurama. Like, what about the games?
There weren't that many games for Futurama. I remember one in the PS2 era, and yet another mobile adaptation, but that's it.
The one that came out on the Xbox and PlayStation 2 is actually kind of big of a rarity to find. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, like I had this was like one of the last things I pirated in my olden days.
Yeah. Now, another thing, just a few other things on Futurama. In a way, it had still continued. Like, do you remember that? I've even played this. There was a brief time where I did play this for a little while. Do you remember that there's that Futurama app? You could play on your phone.
Yeah, that's what I said. Basically, the same thing The Simpsons has.
Right. So there's that, and even Futurama, I guess, has. I hope it's still continuing, like it's continued, like, say, in the world of comics.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, there's been Futurama comics, and have you guys seen this? It's on YouTube. It's the Fanorama.
I've never heard of it.
It's a Futurama fan film, and it looks amazing.
Need you.
I'll have to kind of show it to you guys at some point, or if I can pull up a picture, I don't know.
Can I have my turn now?
Yeah, I mean, if we're still talking about, if you're gonna say something about Futurama, or if we're done on Futurama, go ahead.
All right, Futurama. The thing about Futurama, the way I see Futurama, there are two distinct eras of Futurama-related material. There's the Fox era and the Comedy Central era. I was familiar with the Fox era because it was the point where it was still on Adult Swim, they were having the last Futurama marathon because it was their last day that they were allowed to air Futurama episodes. So that's how I was aware of stuff from the era. The Comedy Central era I found when it started, and from the iPhone episode is when I noticed the shift in terms of content because of just the amount of language that they could get away with.
Yeah.
Especially from Mom, that the language in this one line pretty much tells me the shift. Amazing, some dumb bastard has nearly 1 million other dumb bastards following his every post. Are you dumb bastards listening, you dumb bastards?
Yeah, I mean, the character of Mom, I don't know what to make up with Mom. Is she like a anti-villain or somebody, good or bad?
I think she is a villain, no matter what.
Yep.
It's like she's a villain. She doesn't portray herself as a villain publicly because it's like on what it's like if she it's like obviously a good villain would not want to portray their true intentions. That's why that's why a lot of people say Trump is evil. I don't think Trump is evil. I think Trump's just stupid.
Yeah.
But anyways, enough about politics.
Yes.
Yeah, those are the two distinct eras. The TV movies I see are basically in-betweens. That's why I said it ended so many times, because it had one cancellation within the Fox era, and then there's another cancellation in between the two eras, and then there's the cancellation at the end of everything. And then maybe the TV movies can be treated as their own separate thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I said it ended so many times. That was the point where I started getting sick of Futurama. When it ended for that final time, I was expecting it to just spontaneously come back because it always does. And I thought I could finally breathe a sigh of relief when it didn't come back. This is Futurama. It has ended, and all the episodes are there, and it was a great ride. But no, Hulu's bringing it back. And the thing about Bendergate, you said they had 1 year until premiere, so they had plenty of time. But in practice, it's not really that, because in practice they don't have that much time, because 1 year is when it premieres, according to you, which means they have to have. It means they have to pick someone as fast as possible to be the voice of Bender, because they have to get him in the booth, and then they have to sync up the voice animations.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think I don't think, because maybe I wasn't being specific. That was all me talking, what I think, my opinions and thoughts that they could have. I was saying that this was me talking. I mean, nobody else. This was just me talking. That I was saying to myself, and even I did a video of this on YouTube where I was saying, I was saying this was me talking, that they would have had, that they have a whole, they've got a whole year to talk with John DiMaggio, negotiate, and for him to return to Futurama. And that's what I was thinking that they would do, because we weren't getting Futurama's return until next year. So I was thinking that they have the whole year to negotiate with John DiMaggio, but things seem to manage to work very quickly, and he's back.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. On the one hand, just because it's a year until, I think they have a year to negotiate, because even after negotiating and getting him back, they still have to run him through voicing the stuff and then finalizing some shit on the character and negotiating pay. So they had even less time than it appears. And not only that, the reason it went so fast is because the fans made a big noise. They know who Bender is. They know what Bender sounds like. They know what they want, and they'll settle for nothing less. And the people behind it know that. It's if people want Bender, why not give them Bender? John wanted to fight it because he wanted to be paid what he thought he was worth, and thankfully they agreed with that.
Yeah. Like he was saying that to not just himself, but to all the other cast members as well.
Yeah, it's like that's the takeaway of like his tale is that if you believe that you have a gift and you believe that people will love you for what you are and what you got, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything
Um,
else we want to say on Futurama, or move on?
Other than the tonal shift, another thing I noticed about Futurama was when they had their little references to other characters that the voice actors did their voices for.
Yeah.
Like Leela and the Jeanstock, where Leela monster. Bender enters the castle and sees Finn and Jake from Adventure Time chained up against the wall. Jake's like, "What time is it?" Bender's like,
For you to
"What?"
shut up.
"Yeah," because John DiMaggio voices Jake and Bender.
Yeah, that was.
I thought that was a funny clip.
The episode was Lily and the Beanstalk or something like that.
The Jeanstock because
That's what I was thinking.
it was because Leela has it in her genetics where she's pretty much gonna have tentacles like her mother.
Yeah, and another thing is, we even got a cameo of Adam West and Burt Ward. You know, because Fry and Bender they're climbing up the wall in the style of Batman, and out of the window we get a cameo by Adam West and Burt Ward, and Adam West, you know, is attached to the body of a bat and being preferred, you know, man bat.
Yeah, it's actually a good. It was actually funny to see those kind of things because it shows that they care about their cast enough to like pull some strings and get whatever they need to get to reference their body of work and like have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, did you notice that Jake looked like Jake, but Finn just looked a teeny bit different.
Well, that's because number one, it's a different art style.
True.
And number two, Jake had to be an active model character because Jake's voice was there, but they didn't have a voice actor for Finn, so they could just draw him as a background element.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have an actor for Finn because they didn't need an actor for Finn. It was all about Jake. It was all about John.
Yeah, but that was I liked that. That was pretty good. And did you know the song that Jake sings? You know, bacon pancakes.
Yes.
Well, actually, I've seen this. Like John DiMaggio sang the song "Bacon Pancakes" as the voice of Bender. That was pretty funny.
Wow, man. I thought the most memorable thing I get out of Bender from that voice was "bite my shiny metal ass."
Oh yeah, well that's one of Bender's famous lines. Even okay, the many other times like he would say it a bit differently. Even when it was say we got Golden Bender.
Bite my shiny golden ass.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, and here's another thing: those celebrities that they would get, you know, like guest star in, like they would always be in tanks, you know, their heads in tanks.
Well, yeah, because they were essentially brought back to life from beyond the dead.
Exactly. Yeah, and Leonard Nimoy was one of the very first ones in the pilot. You know, welcome to the Head Museum. I'm Leonard Nimoy, and Fry's like Spock, do the thing. I don't do that anymore because you know doing the live long and prosper sign.
Yeah, he can't do live long and prosper without hands.
No, but the thing is, speaking of which, because I did mention this a bit early, there was that one episode where they were paying tribute to Star Trek, and we had the original Star Trek cast members, again with the exception of Scotty. And you know, at one point they had their bodies back, and you know, they were on this planet, and that cloud-like alien because had all the Star Trek stuff that landed on that planet, you know, because according to that episode, like Star Trek being banned, and banned being mentioning, blah, 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 just stuff like that on Earth. So if you've seen that episode.
Yeah, I've seen the episode, and what strikes me as interesting about it today is they kind of predicted YouTube culture, because nowadays on YouTube, it's kind of dangerous to show clips of Star Trek or even talk about Star Trek in relation to things like fan projects or whatever, because CBS are trigger happy with their claims, and all it accomplishes is making them look like jackasses.
Yeah. Like, that's not fair, for, at least, talking and mentioning Star Trek on YouTube,
Yeah, I'd say talking about it and mentioning it's fine, but
Yeah.
what sucks is you can't even do fan projects without even abiding by the rules. Because Axanar was a thing that was happening. Axanar was a Star Trek fan project. It was being funded on Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever by the fans. CBS wasn't doing anything with Star Trek, so it was time for the fans to take it back. But then CBS proceeded to attempt not only a C&D, but I heard somewhere that CBS reportedly wanted to sue every single backer, but I doubt they could do that.
Yeah. And I was about to say, fans have been some fans that have been lucky to make fan films, stuff like that of Star Trek on on YouTube, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was that Star Trek Renegades, there was Star Trek Continues, Star Trek Phase 2, I could go on.
Okay, now we're starting to go out of bounds. Anyway, while Futurama did do a good job at predicting a couple of things by accident, it just didn't have the same prediction of everything power that The Simpsons had. Everything in the future was basically played up, because it's the future. We're not going to live to the year 3000 and call them out on it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so, what else did Matt Groening do?
He did Disenchantment.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think we should end the Matt Groening segment on Disenchantment, because I think that's the best thing we could do.
Yeah, I'm getting the note. We're pretty much starting to go overtime, and we're still on Matt Groening.
Yeah, so I think for next episode, since Seth MacFarlane kinda, by his very nature, overlaps with the Adult Swim episode that we did, we might as well just cover him, Mike, and Lauren, since we don't know much about Mike and Lauren, as far as we know, in a part 2. We should just leave Matt Groening a part 1.
Right. Alright, so Disenchantment. I've never seen this, I've never heard of this, but I do remember Bender's Game. This kind of reminds me of Bender's Game.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna step off of this one.
Okay, Sim, do you have anything to say?
No. Go ahead and say your thing.
Alright, I'll try my very best. I mean, I know I've watched it. I've watched a little of it. I think, I've watched just a good amount of Disenchantment. I mean, it's pretty, here's one thing. It's interesting that, each piece of animation that Matt Groening has created, one that's in modern time, which being The Simpsons, one that's set in the future, it's sci-fi, and that of course being Futurama, and another one that's that's fantasy and stuff like that, and which being of course Disenchantment. So if you think about that, Disenchantment is pretty interesting, and for because it's on Netflix, even some of the cast members from Futurama and The Simpsons are a part of this. For one thing, John DiMaggio being a part of this and voicing one character with an axe. Even kind of an homage to Bender, because bite my shiny metal axe. That's what he says. And then there's Tress MacNeille. I'm pretty sure has done some voices. There's been, I think, Maurice LaMarche. I'm trying to remember who else, but even say Disenchantment, referencing The Simpsons and Futurama, and whether if this would happen or not, I'd be up for it. Like, up, down, whatever. If Disenchantment would ever like have a crossover like with The Simpsons or Futurama, who even knows? But I think, as I recall, the troll character, like this guy right here in the cage, I think if I recall, I read this that was one of Matt Groening's first ever drawings he ever drawn. Basically, one of the first characters he had ever drawn. Like before I say The Simpsons, I don't even know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I think Disenchantment is in its 4th season by now, I want to say. I'll have to go back and look. But I know that I've watched this, and even my mom had too. We've watched this, and I need to get back to watching this, definitely. And I plan on reviewing it. I've considered reviewing it, so... but yeah, but that's all I've really got to say about Disenchantment. Yeah.
Alright, so we've already decided that we would normally go to Seth MacFarlane now, but here's the thing.
We can.
I mean, we can, but here's the thing, we're already over time.
But okay, so wait a minute, we're going to do a part 2?
Yeah, we're basically gonna do a part 2 at this time. I mean, if you want, we can cover some of Seth. Like, we can talk about Family Guy in this episode, and then we can talk about American Dad, Cleveland Show, etc. in part 2.
Okay, so we can go to Family Guy next, and then,
Yeah, like just Family Guy for this episode, and then we can talk about the rest of Seth's career in part 2.
Okay.
And of course, you might as well talk about Ted in that episode, but then we're just gonna end this on Family Guy. Alright, so Seth MacFarlane, his contribution to the Fox network is what you see here, Family Guy. And here's what I have to say about the show. I mean, Family Guy I mainly know now for memes, because the show is basically a meme at this point.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. We actually did an Adult Swim episode at one point, although it was completely different people. That was Tonyo and Redacted doing that. So we might as well just talk about our thoughts on Family Guy's decline. I mean, I was originally planning on saying, hey, let's just talk about what made Family Guy great, not the decline, since we already talked about the decline with Adult Swim. But here's the thing, this is different people, so we might as well just revisit this topic for the fuck of it. Alright, so, Family Guy, for me, like, it was a very interesting history with me. Like, this is what I would think of when I think of shows that I wasn't allowed to watch until I watched it. And I thought, oh, this is just kind of like a raunchier Simpsons. I mean, I've seen a couple episodes of Family Guy, much like The Simpsons, but it's things like Road to Multiverse, like the pilot, things like that. But, I haven't seen much of the show, and therefore I don't really have that much to say about it. I mean, I can tell that Family Guy really went off the deep end, much more than The Simpsons could ever hope to. So there's that.
Yeah.
I mean, but I think we should leave it to GH and Eli from now.
Yes.
Okay.
You go ahead first. Go first, GH.
Like, one thing I can say about Family Guy is the theme song references the good old-fashioned values. I think the only time I would ever see the good old-fashioned values that they're talking about are in, like, the early episodes, the early...
It just went quiet all of a sudden. What the heck happened?
Sting or anything like that. It was what it promised.
Michael, you cut off for a few seconds.
Did these team hear me okay?
No.
It just went quiet on both our ends.
Alright, just tell me where I cut off.
When you were talking about, the line "good old-fashioned values" in the intro, which is obviously supposed to be ironic.
Yeah, somewhere there.
I mean, like, now it's ironic to the nth degree, but back in the olden days, they were still kind of grounded to the family values. Like, yeah, they did some stupid stuff, they said some stupid things, but it was still grounded in what could be easily seen as what could be considered some level of reality. Like,
Yeah, like
they,
Peter was fucking dumb, but at least you could believe that it could exist in real life.
yeah, but then starting at the moment he became legally retarded, and I can't even say that word on my channel, but I'm saying it here. From the moment he became legally retarded, there was no hope for him.
Yeah, and I even remember the episode. It's actually one of the very best episodes of the show, Pete Horted, where we first found out that he was legally retarded, and he actually used it as an excuse for everything. I know that all too well.
Kind of like autism.
Yeah, that's my point. I know that all too well.
Yes.
So that kind of hit me in basically the wrong place. That's why I don't really watch the episode that often.
Anyways, like every character had their arc where they pretty much descended into madness throughout the years. Like Peter was a lovable goofball, but then he became clinically retarded and too dangerous for existing. Lois became a Karen, I think.
Yeah.
Like that could be arguable though, because it's so minor, so subtle. Brian, fucking Brian. I loved Brian in the early seasons. Brian was the straight man, despite him being a dog. He was the straight man to Peter's antics and pretty much everything that goes on in the house. And he kind of bonded with Stewie because Stewie was a baby. Yeah, he bonded with Stewie because Stewie was a baby. Stewie couldn't talk to anyone else. And what else? Yeah, and the thing about Brian and Stewie, they work so well with each other that there are episodes, even in the modern eras, dedicated to just those two having their own adventures. And those are really fun. But all right, I'm gonna say the version that most of you aren't gonna understand. Brian, not Chris from Family Guy, Chris from My Life. But you don't know what I mean by that. I will say what I mean by that. Brian's a douche. He became a radical anti-SJW douche. Always out to offend, always out to get attention, always out to make a quick buck or get noticed. Like he became on the same level of Quagmire, except
I mean, he was always. I was just about to say he was always dating somebody.
Yeah, the difference though is like Brian and Quagmire are like two opposite extremes of politics. Like if you agree with the left, you likely don't agree with the extremes unless you're a sheep. And if you agree with the right, you probably don't agree with the extremes unless you're a sheep. Like Brian and Quagmire are the dogs that prey on the fucking sheep. And Quagmire used to be just one of the guys, and then he became a full blown sex addict.
Yeah. Quagmire.
Yeah.
Meg.
Giggity. Yeah. And Meg used to be a sweet little girl that just couldn't hack it in the world. Like life was giving her shit, and she was just trying to find her way through it, like any normal teenage girl would. But then she just, I think somewhere it just clicked in her that she would be held as a pariah no matter what she did. So she pretty much became the ugliest and worst person possible.
Yep.
Chris from Family Guy. Chris didn't change much. He's still stupid. But like unlike Peter, where he's dangerously stupid, Chris is like the lovable kind of stupid, as far as stupid as a man-child can get without being annoying.
Yep. I think he cut off again.
As in the early days.
GH, you cut off again.
Did I cut off about Stewie?
No, about Chris. I mean,
He was
Chris,
about Chris was about the kind of stupid that you could tolerate, like stupid enough that he's lovable and funny and innocent. Not so much that he's another Peter.
Yeah.
Did you hear me that time?
I did. Yeah, we heard you.
Okay. And Stewie, literally all that's changed about Stewie is that in the early episodes, he wanted to kill Lois and take over the world. Now he just wants to marry Brian and have his babies.
Okay. Is that still going on?
As far as I know, yes. And there's actually a controversy about Brian, in the Family Guy fandom in regard to Stewie. So basically, outside of these, in the modern episodes, outside of the occasional Stewie and Brian team-up adventure thing, Brian's a douche. Yeah. Okay? Anyway, but here's the thing. Apparently they were hell-bent on making him a douche, and the way they showed it was Life of Brian. Life of fucking Brian. That episode started with Brian and Stewie hanging out doing usual buddy things. Then Brian gets hit by a car and dies.
Yep.
So,
it's all a meme.
Yeah, I'm getting there. So Stewie pretty much has to cope with Brian, which he could for a while until the family just replaced him with Vinny. He didn't like Vinny. Nobody liked Vinny. Fuck Vinny. Anyway, a couple episodes later, Stewie decides enough is enough, so he teams up with Vinny to go back in time and stop the car from hitting Brian so he can have Brian back.
Well, the thing is, here's this. After the episode Life of Brian, the next episode, it would be the only episode where Brian, of course, does not appear in, and that's in that episode, Peter and Quagmire, they start a musical duet together, singing, playing guitars, while Stewie and Vinny do whatever the heck they do. And after that episode, we would get the Christmas episode where, in that, Stewie does save Brian. So it was only like one episode after, as I just explained.
Right. So anyway, Stewie goes back and gets Brian, and they're more grateful for each other than they ever thought possible. But here's the stupid thing about it. Right after that sequence, they make Brian a douche again. So it kind of puts us in this uncomfortable spot where they pretty much established that if we complain about Brian being a douche again, they will kill him off again, and then we'll never have those Brian and Stewie lovable moments ever again. So they're pretty much holding fucking feels hostage, and I hate it. Like, we can't complain about Brian being a douche, because if we want to get rid of Brian being a douche, we also get rid of Brian being supportive.
You cut off again.
I fucking hate Brian, and I want him to die forever. I don't care if I lose his episodes with Stewie, because I hate when people gaslight and mistreat us like this. And if I have to repeat that one more time, I'm going to rip out my tonsils and shove them up Brian's asshole.
All right. Is that about Family Guy?
Well, I didn't get to say anything about Family Guy.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
Okay, give me 1 sec, please.
Apparently, we're not finished.
Except for me.
Right.
I said not finished.
Yeah, we're not finished because of Eli.
Yeah.
Let's keep.
Exactly.
Let's give him a sec.
Okay, give me.
I'm
Nah.
more steamed than Skinner's steamed hams.
Okay. Okay, screen share's back up. How's it looking?
Fine.
Okay, here's what I have to say about Family Guy. This is the last thing. Family Guy for part 1.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I
Who'd
mean-
have thought that? No,
No.
go ahead.
Go ahead, say your thing about Family Guy. So, yeah, we're gonna end part 1 with Family Guy. I mean, we're gonna talk about Seth MacFarlane's, the rest of his career in part 2.
Yeah, I really think because it's part of the thumbnail. I don't really think we should leave this out. We ought to talk about Mike and Lauren's shows too. And for me, I can do my
Yeah,
very
we
best
are.
talking about those.
Yeah, we are.
All right.
It's just that we're just gonna talk about those in part 2 after MacFarlane stuff.
Yeah, who'd have thought? Because I guess for us, we thought that we could do all 4 of them, but nope. Turns out, of how the stream turned out, and how long, of how we were talking, we unfortunately have to do it in 2 parts.
Yeah.
All right, so okay, I'm the last one to talk about Family Guy. So okay, but just very quickly, I wanted to quickly mention this. I really forgot to mention this because I have these pictures. Back on The Simpsons, very quickly, I forgot to mention 2 of my favorite characters from The Simpsons have to be Sideshow Bob and Krusty the Clown. I love their hairstyles, and there's a connection between them, as we all know. Like Sideshow Bob used to, work and be one of Krusty's sidekicks, and in one episode of season 1, I believe, Brad Bird, who's the best known for Pixar, The Incredibles, The Iron Giant. He used to work on The Simpsons. He directed one episode. I remember it was where Krusty was framed for robbing and such, and and he was framed, but really it was Sideshow Bob. And when you have those episodes of Sideshow Bob being voiced by the wonderful, just talented actor Kelsey Grammer. I just wanted to quickly get that out because I really forgot to mention that, and because I love these 2 characters. Even I read that Brad Bird's favorite Simpsons character is Krusty the Clown. So, okay, back to the Simpsons. Okay, not Simpsons, Family Guy. So, what do I have to say about Family Guy? Well, I mean, I like Family Guy. I mean, it's I've watched Family Guy before, and God, I think I've mentioned this to you guys at one time that I have an almost entire collection of the first seasons of Family Guy on DVD. And Family Guy alongside with Futurama, they both started in 1999, and Family Guy started on January 31st, while Futurama started in 2 months later in March. So even the animation to Family Guy changed as the years went by. Even up to when, say, it there was one time when Family Guy was canceled, but then it came back, and and ever since it's been continuing. And the animation did change, of course. And honestly, I think for once in a while, Family Guy had some pretty good, decent episodes. This was pretty good. When season 9 started, that's when really the animation was, really changed, and I think it got a bit better with its lighting and coloring, And that was the season 9 opener where, they're all invited to this mansion, whatever, and James Wood is their host. And at one point, James Woods is murdered, and each one of the characters gets murdered, and it turns out to be Diane Simmons, an original, news reporter co-host with Tom Tucker. She was the murderer, and she gets killed by Stewie. But yeah, there's that. And need I say, if you guys have anything to say about this, those when Family Guy did the Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah, I think those are the most iconic episodes of the show, besides, of course, the meme episodes.
Blue Harvest, something Dark Side, and It's a Trap.
Uh-huh.
Yep. Those were pretty good episodes, and the characters playing the parts of the Star Wars characters, perfect. Like, Stewie as Darth Vader, Brian as Chewbacca, Chris as Luke, Herbert the Pervert as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Lois as Leia, Peter as Han Solo, Joe was Jabba the Hutt. Meg had random roles in episodes, and what was that one character's name who was Yoda? You know, who played the part of Yoda? Anybody?
I'll look it up.
You know, kind of talked like this. And the same guy who voiced that character would go on to voice Bob in Bob's Burgers.
Let's see. Okay, hold on. Here I found the page.
Oh crap!
Let's see. This character's name is Carl.
Carl?
Yeah. Oh, Carl. He runs the Quahog Mini Mart.
Yeah, and he's voiced by the same guy who would go on to, you know, voice archery or whatever the heck that's called, and he would voice, most notably, and you know, still he would voice Bob in Bob's Burgers.
Yeah, I think he also voiced Archer.
Yeah, that's right. He voices Archer. Yeah.
He actually referenced it in Archer, like Archer gets amnesia, wakes up in a restaurant, and thinks he's Bob from Bob's Burgers.
Okay. Well, anyways, so, okay, hold on a second. I went ahead and decided to do this, and I'm gonna screen share yet again. Okay. How's it looking?
I see it.
Okay, good. So I decided to do, you know, show this picture because we're talking about Star Wars, but it won't be for long. So again, Blue Harvest, something Dark Side, and It's a Trap. Yeah, these were some of the best ones, you know, in Family Guy's time, and even it's hilarious moments. Like I remember a reference to the Griswolds, and even the actual voices of Clark and his wife, and also Star Trek. Like in It's a Trap, you know, Lando Calrissian says, "Lando to Enterprise, draw their fire away from the cruisers," or whatever, and you know, we cut to the Enterprise D crew, and Picard and Worf say, you know, "We're having tea, thank you very much." Yes, tea. So it's Patrick Stewart and Michael Dorn, and I also like how even Adam West, you know, that's another thing too. We forgot to mention Adam West because for a long time he was Mayor West, and even in Star Wars, the Star Wars parody, he was like playing the part of Tarkin. That was pretty funny. Anybody quickly got to say anything on Adam West and Family Guy?
Nah.
Nobody? Not even you, Decem?
Not me.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing is with Adam West being, you know, Mayor Adam West, how like when Seth MacFarlane was still technically working at Cartoon Network, you know, he wrote an episode of Johnny Bravo that had Adam West in it, and you know, afterwards, Seth MacFarlane would cast Adam West, you know, as the role of, you know, Mayor West in Family Guy, and even up to even up to when Adam West passed away. So, and they of course let himself on Family Guy die. So even when Carrie Fisher was on that show too, and that's another thing. Because speaking of which, yeah, Carrie Fisher making a cameo in It's a Trap, and when it came up to and in It's a Trap, we got a couple of cameos from say Roger the Alien and Klaus, and even one of the characters from the Cleveland show. Just yeah. And that's another thing is, yeah, even Cleveland is R2 and Quagmire is C-3PO. And another thing is, yeah, in Blue Harvest, like at one point, Cleveland whips out a gun firing on the TIE fighters. And even in the cockpit sequence during that, and we get a cameo from Leslie Nielsen. It's archived sound of Leslie Nielsen from Airplane, you know, saying to, you know, Han, "I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you." That was pretty funny. Trying to remember, yeah, even like Darth Vader like dying, and you know, Stewie just pissed off at Luke, you know, "I was going to live, you know, F you, you murdered me." Yeah, because literally his neck. So, anyways, so there's that. So that's all I'm gonna. So just to kind of to get through this, yeah, because that's all I'm gonna say on the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy. But here's another thing about Family Guy. Very important to talk about this. All those episodes, like with family, with Stewie and Brian, with those Road 2 episodes, they were probably some of the best ones. Like, and even if it wasn't a Road 2 episode, there would be some other episodes where Stewie and Brian would be doing something. Like, Road to Rhode Island, because, it was about, like, Brian's mom. Then there was one, say, Road to Rupert. That infamous sequence where Stewie's dancing with Gene Kelly. That's just amazing. And another one, probably one of the most popular Road 2 episodes, and if not, one of Family Guy's most popular episodes, Road to the Multiverse. Yeah, that's another one of my favorites, too. Nobody has anything to say on Road to the Multiverse? Anybody?
I do. I'm gonna say something.
Go for it.
Road to the
Go
Multiverse is honestly by far my favorite episode of Family Guy because I just love the style. I love the experimentation with the whole style and everything, and it's very interesting to see Family Guy in these different styles, especially the Disney style. Like,
oh yeah,
like the contrast between something like Family Guy and that classic Disney animated style, it's just so cursed and so funny at the same time. Like, it's almost like self-aware that Family Guy is seen as cursed a lot of the time.
Yeah, and even when they're in the Robot Chicken universe or something like, even in the Flintstones, I could go on, but that was a pretty good one. And another one, like. This was not a Road 2 episode, but I think this was another one of their best episodes, and even with Stewie and Brian, there was Back to the Pilot where they time travel back to literally the first episode of Family Guy, and Brian kind of messes up, he screws up the timeline, he stops 9/11 from happening, and and at one point he becomes the author of the Harry Potter books. It's hilarious. And even one moment where a bunch of Stewie, Brian's, and even one where Peter tagged along with Stewie and Brian, and Peter said, I don't know what I'm doing here, I'm just looking for the can. And there's one Stewie and Brian where they're in that barbershop kind of swirly, what are those called again? Do you know what I'm talking about? You'd see at a barbershop. Anybody?
Sorry, I was in another chat for a sec. The Barbershop Quartet. Are you talking about the episode where time was moving backwards, or are we still on the multiverse?
I'm talking about Back to the Pilot, and I was talking about where a bunch of Stewie and Brian show up, and there's one Stewie and Brian where they're inside these swirly things. You would see.
Oh yes, those ones from the barbershops. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened. This is life for some reason. God help us. This is no way to live, and they vomit, and the vomit just goes everywhere. And and even one of the Bryans broke his neck or something. And then Stewie and Brian go all the way back before their first selves start this whole thing. Get the F back in your time machines. Blah blah. Yeah, but does anybody have to say anything on Back to the Pilot?
I thought we were on Road to the Multiverse.
We were. Now we're on Back to the Pilot.
Yeah, see, that's why I don't like doing SmackDowns. Y'all talk so damn fast, and then I miss my spot.
I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Anyway, the thing about Road to the Multiverse, I vaguely remember it because it had that establishment of Bertram.
Yeah, Bertram being voiced by Wallace Shawn. Yeah, I know that character.
Yeah, Bertram got killed because he was trying to kill Stewie, but since Stewie in that particular timeline started the Big Bang, killing Stewie would kill the universe.
Yeah, that's right.
So anyways, the reason I remember it is because it actually got a sequel in the form of a video game called...
Yeah, I was going to talk about that.
Yeah, Family Guy Back to the Multiverse. It picks up from where Road to the Multiverse left off. about them traveling to other universes. Apparently, there was a universe where they didn't kill Bertram. So Bertram from that universe decides, I'm gonna blow up this universe because a universe shouldn't exist if it doesn't have me in it.
Yep.
So they decide to follow him throughout the multiverse as he gets all these different things and people to help him conquer the main universe. And there's all these different ones, like the one where Santa's built weapons of mass destruction. Then there's the Amish universe. There's the frat boy universe. There's the pirates universe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the way I especially love playing it was in co-op mode, because someone could play as Stewie and have the Stewie weapons, and then someone could play as Brian and have the boring normal weapons. And my favorite level actually was when you got to do a 1v1 in the level at the airport where you're Peter fighting the giant chicken.
Yeah.
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 Apparently,
That
it doesn't
one.
matter who wins; you just go on either way.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, and I would like. I mean, I never played the game Back to the Multiverse, but I would like to. It seems like a really fun game and another one of the best things to come from Family Guy. But yeah, I mean, I've seen Let's Plays of that game. Pretty awesome. You're playing as Stewie and Brian, you know, but anyway, so yeah, so back to what I was saying about Back to the Pilot. It's impressive because, you know, because they time travel in the early days of Family Guy, and of course, you know, in the pilot and so on. And when, like, in that one episode where Peter dumps a bunch of money during a football game, and when he's in court, and Stewie and Brian run into the Kool-Aid guy, and they cause the Kool-Aid guy to miss his cue, you know, that part. And I'm impressed that the animation, they do a really good job, like, capturing the old animation of Family Guy. So there's that. But also, oh gosh, this is another good one too. I think this is another good one, and with Stewie and Brian, when in one episode Brian keeps you know, dating a bunch of girls because he pretends and lies, saying that, you know, he owns a time machine, which, you know, it's Stewie's. And there's one moment where Brian, like, messes up the timeline, and even one part where, you know, a Ferris Bueller reference where, you know, here's where Brian goes berserk and him screaming, and basically what happens is everything goes backwards.
Oh,
but
the Yug Laugh episode.
The what episode? The what?
Yug Laugh. It's Family Guy backwards.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. In that episode, I was just about to say, I don't mean to interrupt, but I was just about to say, in that episode, everything goes backwards, but the only difference is they don't talk backwards, you know, their lines aren't reversed, but I mean, in a way they're saying some things, like, not in order of what they're saying. You get my point.
Yeah, I love the part where they showed the politicians on the TV screen. You see their, like, weird-ass rambly answer, and then the interviewer question was just something completely ordinary and mundane.
Yeah.
But, it did touch on... But another trick about it was, like, because we have that perception of time moving slower the farther you go, time, as it went backwards, was actually moving faster and faster and faster, to the point where Stewie was about to be unborn.
Yeah. But Brian managed... I was just about to say Brian managed to fix everything.
Yeah. My favorite part was when they showed the origin of the greased up naked deaf guy.
Yeah. And one of the cutaways in that episode is where, like, Stewie's, like, having trouble, like, you know, singing the alphabet.
Yeah. Like, I liked when, like, yeah, like, it was one of the few moments I felt dramatic tension, because as Stewie was trying to work on the fix, he suddenly seized up because his developmental cycle went in reverse and he wasn't able to walk anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's that, and we talked about the life of Brian and so on. I'm trying to remember, like, a bunch of other episodes. I'm trying to remember, like, I think there was. I have watched this before. There was another episode where Chris tagged along with Stewie and Brian, and this time they were on the Titanic. I don't know if you guys would remember that, or if you've seen that, or if you would have anything to say on that one.
I wouldn't. But do you have the do you have the partial terms of endearment episode planned, or
Which one again?
the one that they didn't air on TV?
I can't remember that one.
Basically, there was this couple, and they wanted Lois to be a surrogate for their child, and then the couple died, and then the rest of the episode became an argument about, like, whether she should still have the baby and take them in as part of the family, or if she should just get an abortion.
Yeah, I do not remember that one.
That's because it was considered too hot for TV, and they made it DVD exclusive. Especially the ending. Like, it's like Lois sits them down and talks to them about like the challenges and tribulations, but also the joys and wonderfulness of having another member of the Griffin family. And like they play the sweet music. She's giving the heartfelt talk. And then it pans out, they all look at the camera, and Peter says, "We had the abortion."
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even a couple of times where Family Guy would go a bit too far. Like, do you remember that one episode where Chris, like, goes on a date with a girl with Down syndrome, and there's a reference to Sarah,
Literally all I remember about that Down syndrome girl was that she was a bitch.
Okay.
Like, worse than Meg is all I can say.
Yeah. Even Stewie, like, helping Chris get ready in that song he sings, you must impress that, blah, da 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 da, Down syndrome girl, like, that song. And, and that's another thing, like, Family Guy had their musical moments, and, I'm sure, they've had some good ones, like, there's like that one where Stewie, Brian, and Peter, they sing, the FCC. There's that.
Yeah, that song. I actually have like a Mandela effect going on with that song because because the way they sing the chorus is supposed to be like the fellas of the freaking FCC, but for some reason I remember it as the goddamn freaking FCC. Like, I don't know why I remember it that way.
I don't remember it that way. Just, GD.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Oh, yeah. Even like Stewie and Brian having their song numbers like, "We're off on the road to Rhode Island," or, "You and I are so awfully different." Those are two good songs from them. As I said, I think that, Family Guy had some pretty good deep song numbers, like, especially, like, as I mentioned, those two that Stewie and Brian sing. I do like those two ones. And oh yeah, I almost
go ahead.
Oh well, I was just gonna say, because I totally forgot about this, and this is another good one. This was another one of the rare good episodes that Family Guy would have, and that was another Road 2 episode. That was Road to the North Pole. Does anybody have anything to say on that?
Christmas time is killing us. That one?
Yeah, that's the episode with that song.
Yeah. They pretty much, like, they're pissed off that they didn't get their presents from Santa. Stewie wants to kill Santa. Santa wants him to kill him because they're being tortured by the whole Christmas thing.
Yeah. Well, them not getting Christmas presents, that's near the end of the episode where, Stewie and Brian, they tried to be Santa, but after only one house, because, even like Brian says, no wonder Santa lost his mind. This is impossible. And, that's when the next morning on Christmas Day, everybody like wakes up and sees that they didn't get Christmas presents, and it's on Quahog News and, Channel 5. And that's when Brian and Stewie, they come into the studio, they have Santa with him. with them, and even Brian tells them the reason why they didn't get Christmas, and what's wrong with Santa, and one Christmas they can get one Christmas present, every year. So
Yeah.
yeah, and
Fast forward a year and they're satisfied with what they get.
yeah. And I think and that song, Christmas Time is Killing Us. I think that was a really well done song. Just the orchestra and the singing, you name it, and the lyrics. So I think that Road to the North Pole was another one of the rare Family Guy episodes that was actually good. So.
That song though, Christmas Time is Killing Us, actually does make sort of a return in Back to the Multiverse the game, because an instrumental version is used as the backing track for the North Pole level. Basically in that level, it's another universe, of course. Because funds are tight at the North Pole, they decide to auction off Santa's factory services to the highest bidder. So Bertram, being a baby with lots of money, decides to commission Santa to produce weapons of mass destruction for his plan.
Yeah. So there's that. I'm trying to remember a couple of other episodes. There was one episode where, with Herbert the pervert, he actually kind of saves the day. He stops and faces off against an old enemy. Herbert in the early days, he served in World War II, and a Nazi soldier has returned, and they fight against each other again. But as old men.
Yeah, it was the only redeeming quality I found because in every other episode, Herbert's a pervert.
Yeah. Another episode is where Stewie created an evil clone of him, and the difference with evil Stewie is, the coloring of the shirt and pants are different.
Yeah.
he cut off Brian's tail. He sliced a woman in half. He broke the Kool-Aid guy. There was another episode where trying to remember. Oh yeah, where it seemed at one point that things pretty much were almost about to end between Bonnie and Joe, but of course, Peter and Lois, it's both of them and probably a couple of others. They help bring the two back together, fall in love again, etc. Because it seemed like that they were almost about to break up and divorce, but nope. They Peter and Lois managed to bring them back together, help them, and so on. There was that, and another one, a Halloween episode that I remember, one where Stewie is dressed up as a duck. Some big kids steal Stewie's candy. They pick on Brian, they spray paint him pink, and we get an appearance of Pink Panther, and even and in that episode, I think Peter's Quagmire, Joe, they fly in planes. There's one moment where Meg and Chris, they accidentally make out with one another. They don't realize that it's them, and even when Lois threatens the one kid that took Stewie's candy, threatening both the kid and the mother. I'm trying to remember what else. Even when there was a heated battle between Quagmire and Brian, and another episode where Brian lost his teeth after hitting a red a red fire pot, whatever the heck those are called. Trying to remember what else, but. If anybody else has anything to say on Family Guy, I'm kind of running out of things to say.
What about that kid with the upside down face?
I don't remember that one, unfortunately. I wish I could remember, but I don't. I wish I could remember, but I can't.
He was a minor character. He was one of Stewie's bullies, and nobody said anything about it because they just treated it like a deformity. They just try to ignore it and move on until the one point where Brian complained.
You cut off again.
Until the one point where Brian complains to the kid's father, and he actually says it's turned Stewie's whole life upside down face.
Okay. Well, there's that episode, and I do remember now. There was one episode where Stewie falls for a little baby girl, I guess, with a British voice, and she's trying to kill Brian. Then there's another one where, another Stewie and Brian episode, and I don't think, like Seth MacFarlane's the only one in this episode that has all the dialogue, just Stewie and Brian, and there's no music as I recall, and it's where they're locked up in a bank vault. So there's that. Yeah, there's that, and there's another one where later, a couple of years back, not too long ago, maybe say around 2019, where Stewie was in psychiatry, and he was seeing a psychiatrist voiced by Sir Ian McKellen, and Stewie like shouting out to Grant Gustin, aka the Flash on the CW. And at one point in that episode, we find out, that Stewie actually like reveals his voice. Like his British voice was never his real voice, and he reveals his real voice. But like Ian McKellen is the psychiatrist. Obviously, yeah, the psychiatrist is made up to look like Ian McKellen. Like, the psychiatrist is like, I don't hear a difference. And Stewie then started doing a bunch of other voices that Seth MacFarlane did, from Peter, Quagmire, Brian, Tom Tucker, the pirate, and of course Roger the alien. And I'm a gay alien. And there's that.
Go ahead. There was this one segment I remember from one of the episodes. Like there was in the kitchen, Lois had this crazy idea, and Meg was like, oh, this is going to be a mom episode. Are we just giving Seth's voice a break or something? Then literally every character Seth ever voiced walks into the room and nods silently.
I don't remember that one. I don't know if I've seen that or not.
It was a recent one, I think.
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, look up giving Seth's voice a rest. You'll find it.
He didn't voice any character in that one episode?
Yeah, they literally made they literally made the plot of it around Lois because they wanted to give Seth's voice a rest.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's fair enough. Oh yeah, and there was another episode too that I forgot to mention. Might be the last one I talk about. Do you remember this one? It was Not All Dogs Go to Heaven.
Is that that's the one where Brian became an atheist, right?
Yeah, the entire Griffin family is Christian, but only Brian is the only one that's an atheist.
Family. Not the entire family. Lois is Jewish.
Okay. Well, yeah, but Brian, is an atheist. So I didn't kind of realize that Lois was Jewish.
I can understand his reasons for being an atheist, but I hated that callous example he gave. Like if there is a God, he points at Meg. If there is a God, why would he make her so damn ugly?
Okay. Well, yeah. Here, I will admit, this is kind of funny. Like, okay, like where like Brian says, what is God doing up there all the time? And we cut to God like dressed up as Flash Gordon, and riding on that speeder, whatever the heck it is. That I will admit that's kind of funny. But in that episode, it's not just about Brian being an atheist, and with the title itself, Stewie basically kidnaps the entire Next Generation cast.
What?
Yeah, because after attending a Star Trek convention, Stewie, he managed to transport all the Next Generation cast members to his room, and greetings everyone, my name is Stewie Griffin, and at one point he kills Denise Crosby, and well, fun because coincidentally, her character Tasha Yar is killed in Next Generation, and he just takes the Next Generation crew with him wherever, like at the McDonald's drive-thru, bowling, and he then starts to get irritated with them. Because he thought that maybe he would have a good time, but I guess not. I don't know. The worst day of my life, as the episode is ending with its end credits, and even at the very end, like we get a live action appearance of Adam West, and I forget who else it is. They're both in their beds, like a bit similar, I guess, maybe in the style of Ernie and Bert. I don't know. Because Ernie and Bert were in two separate beds. What were you saying?
Is that the one where he's like, I just had this weird dream. There was this episode of Family Guy and something, and then Chick's like, what's Family Guy?
That's in a different episode. Like, I'm talking about Adam West. This is different. I mean, that episode with that live action segment, as you just said, like that was in one of the early episodes of Family Guy. There was like an apocalypse or whatever it was, and I think at one point Stewie turned into an octopus, but I guess it all turned out to be a dream, like when we cut to that live action segment near the end of that episode.
Oh yeah. Like, because I remember the live action. I just remember the live action segment I had started after the Family Guy was singing that song, like left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot.
Yeah. Okay, and one other episode that I can remember, it's where Brian accidentally gets sprayed by a skunk, and he is forced to stay outside, of the house until the smell is gone. And throughout this, he manages, he gets used to being outside, and he's in like the way he looks after being outside so long, it's in the style of, Chuck from Castaway with the long beard and hair, and like Brian basically becoming a wild animal. And there even in that episode, there's like a cutaway and a joke to reference, say, of Scrappy Doo, because Brian's hiding from something, while it's nighttime, and like Brian's nephew like shows up, and I'm not afraid of it, let me at him, and it turns out to be a velociraptor, and the velociraptor kills Brian's nephew. Just I guess that's a way of saying, thank you for killing Scrappy, because everybody hates Scrappy. So
Right.
and how just one more thing, how Brian gets how and like what convinces Brian to get back inside in the house is when a thunderstorm arrives. And of course, as we all know, dogs are terrified of thunder, lightning, etc. And that convinces Brian to come back inside. And we see that I guess this is Adam West's doing. It's his doing, and it's basically a snow globe. And one more thing, because as of now, as I recall, the replacement for Adam West being mayor, it's now Sam Elliott. Like, I guess, Sam Elliott is now the next mayor of Family Guy after the passing of Adam West. Although I think, Sam Elliott is playing a different character, and his character is related to Adam West. So there you go. Just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I guess the last thing I'll bring up is in one of the later episodes, they actually showed off Mila Kunis's voice talent, because there was the episode where it turns out Adam West and later Meg was actually a Russian sleeper cell agent, and and in the end they tried using they said the code word, and Meg was speaking in Russian over the phone, and it turns out that actually was Mila Kunis actually speaking Russian. She can speak Russian. Who knew?
Ah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Okay. So
Yeah,
anyway,
even Meg had well, I was just one more, like, another thing I just wanted to quickly mention. Like, Meg was never, first off, was never voiced by Mila Kunis to start with. Like, she was voiced by somebody else, but then a little bit later, Mila Kunis became the official voice of Meg. So,
maybe that's when her attitude changed.
I guess so. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right,
But
so
we ramble enough about Family Guy.
yeah,
I think we've covered a lot about Family Guy. So.
Yeah, so if you have any more things to say about Family Guy, Eli, you can talk about them in part 2.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And especially since, we will talk about American Dad and a few connections between American Dad. Yeah, I was about to say, there are a few, like, because since, for part 2, we'll mention a little bit more of Family Guy, since, again, we're gonna talk about American Dad, and there are a few, like connections and crossovers, just a little bit with American Dad and Family Guy. So there you go.
Yeah, so like I said, we're gonna finish the Horsemen of Fox Animation in 2 weeks from now. We're gonna make this a part 2. We're gonna make a part 2 where we're gonna talk about the rest of Seth MacFarlane and of course Mike Judge and Lauren Bocher.
Alright,
Yep.
But until then, thank you for watching this SmackDown. Next week's SmackDown will be Marvel, because we already did Cinematic Universe. We'll be doing everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any last words, on part 1?
Not really.
Okay. Nope.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I'll quickly. I mean, I know since this is now a 2-parter, I'll have a few things to say. Well, first off, I honestly didn't expect for this to be a 2-parter. We didn't know until we were streaming this, and because of how much we were talking about Matt Groening shows and up to Seth MacFarlane, just how this was processing. But it's okay. Like, hey, why not extend it and make it a two-parter, just like what we've done with DC and Marvel. Just boy, we were lucky to have the one SmackDown of Playhouse Disney / Disney Junior all into one, like it was one big SmackDown. But that would rarely happen. But for this, we are definitely doing a two-parter. So I look forward to part 2. I'm glad that, for this we managed to talk a lot about, Matt Groening shows and a little bit of Seth MacFarlane, of course, just with Family Guy. But until part 2, for part 2, we'll of course talk more about Seth MacFarlane and then Mike Judge and Lauren, what's his last name?
Boucher.
What is that now?
Boucher.
Okay.
Boucher?
I still didn't get how you said that because of how it sounded, but that's okay. Well, again, until part 2, when we do those guys, for right now, we've talked about Matt Groening entirely and a little bit of Seth MacFarlane. So
and we're already way over.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun, and I look forward to part 2. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, part 2. That will be in 2 weeks. I hope you look forward to it. I sure as hell need some Quaaludes. But next week will be Marvel Part 2, which will be everything but the Cinematic Universe. April 2nd is Stream Fest, I think?
Yeah, April 2nd is Stream Fest.
And the next Raw on Monday will feature...
Monopoly.
What are we rolling? Monopoly Party, specifically, yes.
Yep. Alright, so now that you know what to look forward to, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, we're done.